drive down Baker View, you would see a giant mountain robed in white, and we all know it as Baker. But before we knew it as Baker, it was actually called Kulshan by the Lummi Indian tribe. And so this is the story of how Kulshan came to be where it is. So Kulshan was known as a really handsome young man, and he had 2 wives. One of his wives, her name was Clear Sky, and she gave him 3 sons. And his other wife, her name was Fair Maiden, and she didn't give him any sons. Clear Sky was much more beautiful than Fair Maiden, but Fair Maiden was very kind-hearted, and Kulshan loved her because of that. And it seemed over time that Fair Maiden became more favored by Kulshan, and Clear Sky got really jealous of this. And over time, her jealousy grew and it grew, until finally she was like, you know what, I don't want to be here anymore. I am just so done with Fair Maiden. So she thought to herself that if she left, then Kulshan would find his love for her and beg her to stay. So she went up to Kulshan and she asked him, or she told him that she was actually going to leave. And he, to her surprise, said, okay, go ahead. He said, go as far as you want to go. And she was so taken aback. She thought that he didn't love her. And so she packed all of her bags that night, and she left her 3 children, and she went. And she walked away and far away and kept going and going until she realized that she had made a mistake. And she kept looking back, hoping that Kulshan would maybe ask her to come back, and he never did. And the children never said anything, and she got very sad and hopeless. And so she climbed to the very tallest hill that she could find, and she looked back at Kulshan, and he still never asked her to come back. So she set up camp and dumped all of her belongings on the ground out of her backpack. And every single night she would stand on her tippy toes and try and see if she could see Kulshan, wishing she was taller. And she never could see him, ever. And every night she persisted on her tippy toes, kept looking and looking, until eventually she got really, really tall. She grew and grew into this giant mountain. And actually, if you look south, you can see it, and we know it as Mount Rainier. And all around the mountain, you'll see berries and flowers and all these beautiful things that she threw out of her bag, and they stay there for generations. Back at home, Kulshan was there with Fair Maiden, and they finally had a kid together. But Fair Maiden grew very sad, and she grew very, very homesick. And so she shared this feeling with Kulshan, and she told him that she really wanted to go home. She longed for that motherly advice that only her mother could give, and her home people, and he didn't want to displease his wife, so he let her go. As she thought about how she was going to get home, she realized that there was no way down the mountain, and so he devised a plan to get her home. And he told all the animals would pause, big giant lions and tiny little mice, and he told them to dig. And they dug a little trench, and then a big trench, and then a huge trench. And it actually filled up with water and turned into what we know, the Nooksack River. So then Fair Maiden got in her canoe, and very calmly she sailed all the way down in her canoe to the Puget Sound, where she went in and out of the islands until finally she was home with her people. And she realized that it was there that she wanted to stay. So she thought about how she was going to stay, and she thought about how Clear Sky grew up and up and up, and she didn't want to do that because people would have to work so hard to go see her. They would have to climb and exhaust themselves to go visit her, and she wanted her people to reach her easily. So she decided that she would just lay down, and there she lies to this day. North of the San Juan Islands, people know her as Spiden Island. Look at his favorite island. And she was actually pregnant when she went home, and she had a little baby that lies just to the north of her too. On her journey, she touched all the islands, and to this day they have all the names of the animals and the fruits that she blessed it with. And back home, Kulshan was really sad, because here at one point he had 2 wives, and now he has none. He just has the 3 sons that were left with him and nobody to lay with him at night. And so he also got on his tippy toes as to try and see his wife to the south or his wife to the west, and he could never see them. But just like Clear Sky, he kept on his tippy toes every single night, and he finally grew into the big, tall baker that we know today. And his children, they looked up to their dad, and they wanted to do the exact same. And so they grew, and they grew into the giant mountain range we see to the east and to the south of Baker. And so there you have it, exactly how the Puget Sound was laid out. Baker, all the mountains around it, the Nooksack to the islands, and all the way to Mount Rainier. All because of Kulshan and his wives. Yay!